Welcome to Conversations with Kay. I'm Kay Ryder. And every week I talk with Vermonters who are leaders in the fields of government, healthcare, education, the arts, and community life. My guest is Dave Mullin, and Dave is the Executive Director of the Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity in Williston, Vermont. And also welcome to our radio listeners on 99.3 FM, WBVT LP. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Kay. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you here. Now, when was the Green Mountain for Habitat for Humanity started?
It was started in Burlington in Chittenden County in 1984. So a small group of folks had heard about what was going on in America's Georgia and thought this community could use more affordable housing.
Great. Now, what is the mission, actually, of the Habitat, the Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity?
Right. Habitat for Humanity, the mission of Habitat is to eliminate substandard housing and the idea that everyone deserves a simple, decent, and affordable place to live. And so that's our mission here in northwestern Vermont.
Now, that's a wonderful mission. I certainly applaud that one.
Thank you.
How many homes have you constructed over the years?
Right. Right now, I think we're at 75 homes in Chittenden County. Again, there's other Habitat affiliates around Vermont. Each one covers a territory. We cover northwestern Vermont. So Chittenden County, and then we have two chapters. One is under our wing that's in Lamoille County, and one chapter under our wing in Franklin Grand Isle County.
This means you sort of hover and
Right.
watch what's going on.
Right, right.
Right. Now, how is the Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity funded, Dave?
The majority of the funds, Kay, come from our local community. We don't receive any funding from Habitat International. We get support, and they solicit some national gifting kind. For a Whirlpool, for instance, donates a refrigerator and a range for every single Habitat house built in the country.
Good for them.
That is great. But the majority of it is individuals donating to Green Mountain Habitat to help us build locally. We do also receive some funding from state organizations such as the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, and local companies sometimes will donate to us. We write for grants like a lot of nonprofits.
Oh, yeah. You also have a wonderful store, don't you?
We do, thanks. The Williston Habitat for Humanity Restore, and it's essentially a thrift store. People can donate new and gently used furniture, appliances, housewares, anything really to do with a house. And we take those items and we resell them to the public. And the money we raise from those donations help us build locally. It all stays local. And in fact, if you can't drop it off at the Williston Habitat Restore, we pick it up for free.
Oh, that's marvelous. Because a lot of people, particularly older people who are downsizing,
Right.
and they don't want all this furniture, but it's good stuff.
It's perfectly good. And so consequently, we keep literally tons of material out of Vermont landfills. And it's perfectly good items. Many times we have folks that'll call us and say, look, I have one washing machine that I'd like to donate. I got a new one. This one works perfectly well. Then we have folks that call us and say, look, we're moving, as you said, we're downsizing, and in fact, take everything in the home.
That's marvelous.
What a wonderful gift, and it's all tax deductible.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I'm talking with Dave Mullin, who's the Executive Director of Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity in Williston, Vermont. How do you determine who is eligible to have a Habitat house, Dave?
Yeah, we have basic guidelines, and they sit at, the family has to be at or below 60% of the median income for the county. So these are considered very low income families, but they're working families.
Okay.
Then they have to be living in substandard housing. And substandard can be unsafe, unhealthy, overcrowded, or paying more than 30% of their income in rent. And as most folks know, especially in Chittenden County, rents are sky high. And in fact, most of the time, when we're all done with a Habitat home build, their mortgage, tax, and insurance will be less than they were paying in rent in Chittenden County.
I believe that, especially in Burlington.
Right.
Burlington is extremely expensive.
It is.
Yep.
It's hard for lower income working families.
Can you take our audience through the steps? I mean, you buy the land and materials, as I understand it.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Sure. So most folks think a lot of the stuff that the land and the materials and everything is donated. But in fact, we purchase most of the land. In fact, we've only had 2 projects, land donated to Habitat for Humanity in the 33 years that we've been around. We purchase the land, then we design a home to fit that property, and it fits the neighborhood. And so sometimes that's a single family home, sometimes it's a duplex, and this year we're building our first triplex in Essex Junction. So we're excited about that.
Great. So you get the land, and what happens then?
Yep. So then we have the house designed, and we have project managers. Most of the project managers are volunteers, and they oversee the project from start to finish on a Habitat home. It takes between 300 and 400 volunteers to build one Habitat home. So it takes about 9 months, Kay, from when we purchase the land to when we finish the home. And during that process, we're building simple, decent, and affordable and energy efficient homes. Very, very energy efficient. They're not boutique or really outside the box there, but they're very tight and energy efficient. So the family won't pay so much for their utility bills.
Now, the family also works on these homes.
They do. That's why we call them partners, not clients or something like that. They're partners with Habitat. And so each family is required to put in 400 hours of sweat equity. If they're selected to be going into a Habitat home, they have to put in sweat equity, helping us build that house or their neighbor's home or volunteering at the Habitat Restore. So they know that house inside and out when they're done, and they've learned skills along the way. And quite frankly, the volunteers working side by side with the partner families, we kind of come to realize we're not so different, that we have a lot in common. You know, parents caring about children and looking for their future and looking to put good shelter over their head, very common.
Now, once the house is done and people move in,
right,
they pay a mortgage to you at 0% interest.
They do. That's right. So we do, Green Mountain Habitat finances that home, not a bank or not Habitat International. So every time we buy the land and the materials for that home, we have to raise that money. And then we finance the home over the course of 30 years at a 0% interest. And that family repays that loan back to Green Mountain Habitat, and we use that money to buy materials for the next house over and over. I will say, we also are now doing some collaborations with Champlain Housing Trust. And in that case, because Habitat and Champlain are working together, we're able to bring the price low enough that these families that wouldn't qualify for a bank loan now qualify for a bank loan too.
Well, it's a circular process, that's for sure, isn't it?
It is, and that's quite unique in the nonprofit world, Kay, where somebody makes a donation to us. When they made a donation to us 30-some years ago for our first house, well, their donation is helping us this year build another house, because those donations were rolled over and over. So it helps us increase the pool of affordable housing in Chittenden County.
Do any of the people you have built homes for, do they ever come back and volunteer?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Again, that's part of this partnership concept, that we're showing folks that part of sharing your gift is what's important. And we always talk about how important it is to build a home for a family. But the other side of this important equation is, by volunteering, we come to realize how fortunate we are and how each and every one of us have a gift of some kind, whether it's the ability to hammer nails or help us raise money or be on a family selection or site selection committee. There's an opportunity to offer your gift.
Let's talk about the site selection. Do all neighborhoods welcome Habitat for Humanity homes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will tell you, in the 16 years that I've been with Green Mountain Habitat, I'm pleased to say there have been very few occasions where there was neighborhoods that didn't welcome a good affordable home and a family. And I think most of that is because the homes that we build, again, are designed to fit in and look like the other homes in the neighborhood. So they're not ostracized. We have had occasion where, over the years, where there was some concern that we were building 3 or 4 Habitat homes and whether that would impact real estate values. Look, everybody works hard to purchase a home, so they have a right to be concerned about what the neighborhood looks like. But quite frankly, after we're done, we've improved the neighborhood.
That could well be. You mentioned that people can actually donate land or their own homes. Can they do that?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. In fact, we have had folks contact us, and in one case, the family said, look, we're downsizing, and we've got a fairly good-sized home in Essex Junction, and we can't afford to donate the whole thing, but we'd like to donate half the value of that home. So Habitat was able to purchase a home and get a family into it that otherwise would not have been. And that family can take that as a tax deduction and know how important their contribution has been to a lifetime for a family.
Yeah, right. The family that donates the home or the land can get a good tax deduction, as I would understand it.
Absolutely. They can, because we're a nonprofit organization, whether they donate the entire cost or a portion of it, they're able to deduct that on their taxes. And again, know that they've really helped us break the cycle of poverty for this family.
I'm talking with David Mullin, who's the Executive Director of Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity in Williston, Vermont. And we're talking about the work that Habitat does. Dave, let's talk about the volunteers themselves, shall we? They're obviously very, very important. How many volunteers do you have now?
Well, as I mentioned, it takes between 300 and 400 for every single house we build. So right now, for instance, we're building a triplex in Essex, so that's 3 times that many volunteers. In addition to the behind-the-scenes volunteers, Green Mountain Habitat, from a staffing standpoint, is a very small organization. We only have 3 in staff administratively. The Habitat Restore has some staff, but even that is run mostly by volunteers. So over the course of a year, there are literally over 1,000 volunteers that participate in one form or another with Green Mountain Habitat, and we're fortunate to be in a community that supports it.
Yes, well now, how do your construction workers, when we think of Habitat, of course, we think of the construction workers.
Right.
How many, do they need any experience in building?
Oh, that's a great question. No is the answer. The majority of the people that come out to a Habitat for Humanity build site, whether it be with Green Mountain Habitat or in California on a Habitat site, the majority have not done construction before. But because we have trained supervisors and some skilled people that know construction, and we're only doing one piece at a time, anybody can come out and work at a Habitat site. We have folks that are retired, folks that are in high school or college, or the whole spectrum of folks. And we also do, about a month ago, we did a women build. It was an entire week of all women crews that came out, and the idea is to highlight the impact women have in bringing children out of poverty housing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we all know that if you educate a woman, you really help a family. We all know that, and it just carries on with, if you educate a woman on how to do some construction work or electrical or plumbing or anything,
Right.
yeah, it really just travels.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has a domino effect.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we feel like with the family. When they're doing their sweat equity on the home, they're learning skills, if they don't have them already, that can help them for a lifetime.
Right. Now, how old do you have to be to do this?
That's a good question. Just from insurance purposes, no one under 16 can be on the construction site during the construction. 16 and 17 can help on the construction site. They can't use power tools or climb ladders, but they can help in other ways. And then sometimes, Kay, we have, after the construction is done, we have some young people under 16 come and help us with landscaping and all of the grass and shrubbery and everything else. There's something for everybody.
Well, that's great, particularly for a family where they have some teenagers who can't build, but they can work afterwards. That's good.
Absolutely, sure.
Landscaping, of course, is another great skill to learn.
It is, and again, it applies to all, in your apartment, in your home, or wherever. You can use those skills.
How do the volunteers set up their schedules? I mean, can they say, I'm going to be able to work 2 weeks in September, for instance? Can they do that?
Well, so the way it works is that folks can log on to our website, vermonthabitat.org, and click on volunteer, and up will come the schedule of the projects that we have, one in Essex now and one in Burlington, and it shows the days that we have construction going on at that site. And folks can pick one day, multiple days, whatever works for their schedule.
Now, they have to be trained before they go out in the field. Who trains the construction workers?
Sure. When folks volunteer for a Habitat construction site, again, I want to mention we also do this for the Habitat Restore, but when they want to volunteer on a construction site, they come out to the construction site, and then the supervisor goes through the entire process. Safety, the tools, training on the tools. If you're not comfortable climbing a ladder, then we've got plenty of other people to climb the ladder. We need you to do this other job. So there's something for everybody, and we make sure that not only are they trained on that particular part of it, whether it be holding a hammer or a power tool, trained on it and comfortable with it.
So safety is a big part of your operation.
Absolutely. A construction site by nature is a hazardous place, but both from preparation ahead of time of making that site as safe as possible to the operation of the project, we want to make sure that folks feel comfortable and they are safe.
How do you find your supervisors, Dave?
Well, that's a great question, Kay. And in fact, I appreciate the opportunity to plug for that. We're always looking for more supervisors. Whether you're interested in coming out for a couple of days to oversee 3 or 4 volunteers, or whether you're interested in overseeing a project, we're always looking for folks, and it's mostly word of mouth. So if you've got those skills and you're interested in volunteering, go onto our website and let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
And you always need more volunteers?
Always, always. And again, we always talk about construction volunteers, but our family selection, site selection, family support, finance committee, there's a lot of back office volunteer opportunities. And that's how we keep the organization from a staffing point very small, so that when somebody makes a donation to us, that money is going out to help us build houses, not to run a big organization.
I'm talking with Dave Mullin, and he's the executive director of the Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity in Williston, Vermont. Now, where would someone call for information about the Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity? I know you have a website.
Absolutely, sure. So they can call our local office, which is in Williston, 872-8726. And again, that's in addition to the website, Vermont, spelled out, habitat.org.
Okay, now you mentioned that your volunteers actually can help in fundraising.
Absolutely.
Now, fundraising is always one of these. Some people like to do it, and some people hate to do it.
Right.
So, how are they plugged in?
Sure. So we have activities and events where they can raise money. We're also looking to develop a fundraising committee, a committee that helps us connect with the community to talk more about the mission so that folks know, and once they hear the story of what Habitat does, they're more than willing to support it. And again, it's supported locally. So if you're interested in helping us raise funds, we have the training process, and we could certainly use your help.
Okay. You mentioned there are other Habitat groups in Vermont?
Yes. There's 7 other Habitat affiliates. We're what's called a federated organization. We have the international organization, but each of the affiliates, of which I think there's over 1,000 now in the United States, is independent and runs by the same guidelines, but is run by an organization locally. Local folks helping local families.
Well, that's the way to do it, I think. You know the community, you can help the community better. I've always felt that way.
Absolutely.
You know, now, you are affiliated, though, loosely, with Habitat for Humanity International.
Yes, you're right. And Habitat for Humanity International basically sprung out of the America's Georgia, where the concept was that there were families that needed homes, and there were the resources in the community, whether it be the labor or the financial support, was there. And so Habitat harnessed that and put it to work to help these families.
Now, Habitat International, you're in other countries, obviously, except besides the United States. And do you have any idea how many homes Habitat International, or the whole organization, has built?
Yeah, I believe it's over 1 million homes now that families are in around the world. And in Vermont, we build a little different house than we do in Georgia, and than we do in Italy, than we do in Afghanistan. Around the world, these homes are built to the standards that the environment and the community requires.
Marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. Over 1 million. That's a great stat, isn't it?
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
Dave, why did you want to be part of Habitat for Humanity? You must have done other things before you took this job.
Yeah, Kay. Actually, I had been involved in the private sector in a number of different businesses and owned a couple of businesses as well. And actually sold the business I was in, and then kind of looked around and said, what now? And Habitat for Humanity was looking for an executive director, their first staff, paid staff person. And I had some construction background, but also business background. And I looked into the mission, and very quickly I was sold on the difference it could make for families, and how that idea of breaking that cycle of poverty, it's not a quick fix. For these families, every morning when they wake up and go to work, they leave a home of their own. Every night when those parents or those children come home, they come home to a stable environment. And in this day and age, it's more important than ever to have a place to rest your head that is affordable and safe.
You know, the cycle of poverty, you know and I know, and a lot of other people know, that it's very hard to break this cycle. Yes. And like in healthcare, for instance, you try to get young parents with their first baby, because everybody wants to start out right, you see. Right. And so there are places where you can plug in and make a difference, a big difference, perhaps, you know, easier in certain ways than you can in others. And so having your own home, this is the American dream, after all. People want their own home.
Absolutely. It's for a reason. But for many of the families, in fact, they took home ownership off the table a long time ago. That why bother banging your head up against it if you can hardly afford your rent? And that's why I said in the beginning that many families don't realize in this area, mortgage, tax, and insurance on a Habitat home is typically less than they were paying in rent. And with a Habitat home, they're able to build capital.
Yeah, right.
And that's what these families lack. Not the ability to carry a home or to take care of it. They lack the capital to get into it. And that's what Habitat helps them with.
You have to have a certain amount of money to make money. This is always the truth, isn't it?
Basic.
Now, Habitat or your organization, and I'm not quite sure on this, has written your vision. You would like to have a world where everyone has a decent place to live.
Right.
Now, global warming and hurricanes and things like that are happening to us. Will this impact your goal?
Kay, it will. I think we've already seen it, where some of the hurricanes and some of the weather activities have really decimated, in some places, homes and shelter of all kinds. And so, in fact, in Texas and Florida, Habitat for Humanity has already started to move towards those organizations. We're on the ground already because we're in the communities. So unlike a lot of organizations, we can do it pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that a lot of homes have been destroyed, but I like your idea of creation. I think creating something. You know, we all like this idea. You know, when you go to school and you're a little kid, you make some drawing.
Right.
You know, and you bring it home.
Right.
This is something that's very, very special, and so it's extremely special to have a home. And I think that from having a home, a lot of other things develop. You're part of the community. You so want to put down roots. If you're a renter, I'm not sure you put down roots as easily, but roots are extremely important.
Absolutely. It's a different mindset, if you will. And there are statistics out there that show when a child, for instance, is in a home and it's a safe, stable, affordable home, grades are better, health of the family is better, and you can see why. It's a basic system, if you will. And that's why we feel that housing and home ownership is such a basic building block to our community.
And it is,
Yeah.
and it is. And I thank you for the work that you are doing. Thank your volunteers.
Absolutely.
And thank you for coming, and thank you for joining us on Conversations with Kay.